Welcome back to the Gridiron Address. It is Super Bowl Sunday. Got a couple Eagles fans in here, got a Giants fan, Steelers fan, and I want to be excited for this game. Hopefully it'll be a good game, but going into the playoffs, looking at the teams, I was like, man, I don't want to see this matchup again. I want something different. Yet here we are. These are obviously two phenomenal teams, the two best teams in the league. We're going to get to that preview later on in the show. We're going to kick it off with an NFL honors recap. Now, Josh Allen, he won MVP. You had Lamar Jackson in the conversation. I feel like Saquon Barkley should have won it, but Shawn, I'll kick it off with you. Who do you think should have won the MVP? Are you happy with Josh Allen getting it? Or would you have rather seen Lamar or Saquon get the award?
Shawn, you're muted.
Shawn, your mic is not working.
Hey, can you hear me now, guys?
There you go.
There it is.
No, let me start off again.
Good
I'm
answer.
disappointed Josh Allen won the MVP because I'm sorry. If you're going to be the league MVP, then guess what you got to do, guys? You got to get your team to play on Super Bowl Sunday. And unfortunately, he went to Kansas City and could not beat Pat again in Arrowhead Stadium. The MVP of the league should have been Saquon Barkley, hands down, 2,000 yards rushing. We should have let him play. Still mad at our coach Sirianni, not letting him play, but understand the bigger game plan is to play today and win a championship. But we should have had him play to be able to beat Eric Dickerson's record. Saquon earned to be this league MVP this year. Hey, and not saying nothing against Josh Allen. Great year, great season. But when you look about it, if you did not get your team the Super Bowl Sunday as the quarterback, you don't deserve to be the MVP.
Without a doubt. And Mike, do you agree with Shawn? Should Saquon Barkley have gotten it, or are you happy with the MVP going to Josh Allen?
I mean, we need to figure out. I need the NFL to give us a formal definition on what the MVP award is and what the MVP award means when a player wins that. Because how many years have we seen the MVP award dominated by quarterbacks and the quarterback conversation? Look, the quarterback, yeah, he is the main guy on the team. He calls the plays. He gets the offense going. He dictates. He's the general, right? That's the field general. But at the end of the day, I think a guy like Saquon Barkley, who ran for 2,000 yards for the first time in how many years? Let's be real here. And a guy who was absolutely pivotal in his team's success this year. If I were to give you, my top two, I would have said Saquon and Lamar. I think Josh, is a fantastic quarterback. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's absolute psychopath the way he throws his body out there. I'm happy that he won it. Good for him. But I think there was two more deserving people, and I think the most deserving out of that bunch was Saquon.
I got to agree with it. It should have gone to Saquon, but Jason, your Giants gave up Saquon, let him go to the Eagles. Should he have won MVP?
Yes, Eagles fans, you're welcome. Well, I'm glad we gave you all Saquon Barkley. So when you win a ring tonight, please make sure you send one to Giants ownership. I think Saquon should have won it. Look, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are all world. Top 1-2 quarterbacks. You throw Mahomes in there. So, they're in the top 5. To me, Joe Burrow had a better year than both of those guys with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, as far as you talk about yards and touchdowns. But unfortunately, because his team didn't have a defense and they didn't make the playoffs, he didn't get it. So to me, the MVP is kind of a popularity contest / we're just going to vote for the most popular guy right now. And that seemed to be Josh Allen. I think Saquon should have won it. You talk about the MVP, the most valuable piece to your team. And right now, Saquon running for 2,000 yards was the catalyst for the Philadelphia Eagles being in the Super Bowl right now. Because they had kind of the same exact team last year, didn't make the Super Bowl last year. I know they made the year before, but now you got Saquon Barkley running wild on you. So, yes, I would have gave it to Saquon Barkley. If anything, if you talk about the two quarterbacks between Lamar and Josh Allen, I would have gave it to Lamar. Lamar had better stats, but really the only reason why Lamar Jackson didn't win it was the Michael Jordan rules. You can only win MVP so many times. We just can't give it to you every year. So I think that's again, that's not a way you should be voting for MVP. It's like, okay, we got to give it to somebody different because if we keep giving it to Lamar, so I don't like the way the voting is done. I think it should be done after everything is over. It's just a regular seasonal award. But give me Saquon. He had a phenomenal year. I think the other guys had good years too, but yeah, they're not in the Super Bowl right now.
Chris, what are your thoughts on MVP? Disappointed it didn't go to Saquon, or was Josh Allen deserving of this award?
I mean, of course, I'm disappointed that didn't go to running back because simply I feel like it's just kind of become a quarterback award at this point. I am going to play devil's advocate and say that out of the two quarterbacks that were in contention for this award, Josh Allen did the most for his team. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good or bad take. I personally believe that, though. I think Josh Allen did the most based on his weapons, that really all he had was a really good running back in James Cook. Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, kind of a rough receiving tight end core there. I mean, of course, Saquon Barkley, I mean, you can't ignore his stats this year. He would have gotten the single season rushing record if he was able to play that last game of the year. That obviously that crazy hurdle where, he just backspinned over a guy, that was insane. But I'm going to go with the board. I'm going to say that Barkley should have won it. I wanted to see a running back win. I think he was deserving of it. He did the most for his team out of the three, I would say. So give me Barkley. I think he was one who deserved it.
And although he didn't win MVP, he did win Offensive Player of the Year. How I feel about Offensive Player of the Year, it's like a consolation award for the best MVP candidate who didn't win MVP. So obviously it went to Saquon Barkley. Honestly, flip these two, give Josh Allen Offensive Player of the Year, give Saquon MVP. I think that's a better outcome because you got to award Josh Allen for what he did. He is the reason that the Bills made it as far as they did. Obviously falling short in Kansas City yet again. Hopefully they can get over the hump eventually. But Jason, I feel like we're all in unanimous agreement that if Barkley didn't get MVP, he should have got Offensive Player of the Year. So, Jason, do you agree with that?
I do. I mean, you got to reward him somehow. That, and you were just right with that. The Offensive Player of the Year award is the de facto MVP because you can only give one MVP out. So Saquon Barkley showed why he was a top draft pick and showed why, unfortunately, playing on the New York Giants, he was essentially handcuffed by a bad team. So now you put him behind a good offensive line, and then you saw what potential he has. So it's disappointing that unfortunately we're getting to find out now how good Saquon Barkley really is. It's a shame. As a Giants fan, I'm a little embarrassed that if we just had a better offensive line, he could have been doing that for us. So yes, well deserving. He is an unbelievable stud and probably has the biggest highlight of the year. Chris mentioned it, that spin backwards hurdle. That's probably one of the most amazing football plays in the moment I think I've ever seen on the field for someone to be able to do that. He is unbelievable.
Chris, would you agree as well that Saquon's deserving of Offensive Player of the Year?
I think he's deserving of it, yeah. Again, I think he should have won the MVP. So if it was a situation where he did win the MVP, I would just switch. I would actually put Lamar if Barkley did win the MVP, but that's all hypothetical. Definitely deserving of it. I mean, same opinion, basically the exact same take that I gave initially, is probably the best running back season we've ever seen in modern history. And the thing you also have to take into account, I always talk about this when I'm talking on Dugout Debrief too, about the way pitchers have gotten better, defenses have gotten better. And if you're performing at this level in the modern era where these people are athletic freaks, that says even more than old records. And again, I'm not bringing down Emmitt Smith. I'm not bringing down Walter Payton, but playing against defenses of this quality today, that shows a lot about athleticism there.
Without a doubt. Mike, do you agree with Saquon Barkley getting?
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, if I didn't owe the Prez of Boom Broadcasting, Mike Davis, you know, a lot of doll hairs for fines and, you know, for things that have been said on the nightcap in the past couple of weeks. Lot of talk here, but I would give you a resounding F yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Shawn, I'm pretty sure it's going to be unanimous, but you agree with Barkley getting Offensive Player of the Year?
It's unanimous. I agree with it. Still upset because, like you just said earlier, Aaron, the Offensive Player of the Year award is the consolation of not winning MVP. And I felt like Saquon going into it, he's glad he's won it. I know he probably is. Outstanding achievement. But, you know, you want that MVP. You want that one hanging up above the fireplace. When I coach, used to always tell everybody, I don't want the runner-up trophy. I want my team to win the championship, to hang that banner up. We don't want to run up banner, hang it in the gym, saying that we were second best. But, you know, if you couldn't give him that one, they had to find a way to give him something. He deserved it.
And
happy birthday, Saquon, by the way. And Cooper
That's
DeJohn. Right. Happy birthday, boys.
That's right. Drew Code saying, bet the Cowboys wish they would have valued running back better than they did this past offseason.
Hey, Rico wasn't too bad. Rico wasn't too shabby.
Wasn't too bad, but you throw Saquon Barkley back there, and
like the second
he's
worst.
Probably doing a lot better than Rico.
So let's not rub it in. Poor Mike. Mike's had a rough week. We let Mike rest today. Let him have a nice.
It was like them in Tennessee had the worst rush off.
We went 11 minutes, and now we finally got a Cowboy comment. Yes.
I'll wait to get my Cowboys back when we have the coaching talk. So I'm holding off on this one right now. I'll use that when we talk about coaching.
But on the defensive side of the ball, Pat Surtain, cornerback from the Broncos, he got Defensive Player of the Year. Chris, what do you think about that? Do you agree with it going to Surtain, or would you like to see it go to somebody else?
Completely deserving. He's a lockdown corner. He played a very, very big role. I can see Mike's a little bit emotional about that. I think it's deserving. He's a lockdown corner. He did a lot for his team. There were a lot of great people out there, but I mean, it's nice to see it go to a guy in the secondary too. That's a really, really hard position to play. And Surtain played at an elite level. He locked down a lot of good receivers throughout the year, and he helped the Broncos make that playoff run.
For sure. And Mike, I saw your reaction. I'm gonna bring this guy up before you do, because I mean, Zach Bond.
Yeah,
arguably one of the best linebacker seasons we've seen since, Luke Kuechly was still in the league. The guy was phenomenal for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I can't necessarily disagree with it going to Surtain. He was a key part of that Broncos defense that was one of the best in the league. But Mike, what are your thoughts on this award going to Pat Surtain?
I feel like, look, no discredit to Pat, man. He's a phenomenal player. You know, that he's been incredible these last few years, but I just felt that this year, I thought that award was going to Zach, man. He had a complete resurgence. He was a guy that was told when he was coming over to Philadelphia, hey, you're going to be on special teams, bud. That's your role. Be happy with it. Then look at him. He's one of the top players here on the defensive front. Look what Vic did for him. Look at the numbers, man. I'm not a stats guy. I can't rattle stats off the top of my brain like Rain Man, but he had incredible stats. He was an absolute presence on that defense. And dare I say, if you don't have him in the mix, I don't know if some of those big plays that we saw happen on defense without him and his presence there. So I'm happy for Pat, but I just felt that Zach deserved this a little bit more. But then again, I'm biased. I'm a Birds fan. What do you want? I'm always going to put my birds on top. That's it. Go Birds. But, good for Pat. But I think Zach should have finished fifth in the voting. That's a slap in the face. I take that energy from this NFL awards and I put that right in front of my locker, fifth, going into today's game. I'm going to show the people why I was number one the whole time.
Jason, do you agree with this award? Should it have gone to Zach Bond? Are you happy with it going to Surtain?
I mean, it's just there was a lot of good defensive performances this year. My performance of the year goes to Cooper DeJean because he was the only guy I saw go head-to-head with Derrick Henry and tackle him. So he gets props for that. So I had to give him a little props for that because, man, you go head-to-head with the king and you tackle him in space like that and you don't get run over. But anyway, Surtain was part of a monster defense. They were one of the best defenses in the league. Look, you could have also went TJ Watt. You could have also went Myles Garrett, even though he was on a losing team. So, I mean, I understand. It was probably a tough vote because there were so many good defensive performances out there. But Surtain and that unit as a whole just probably edged out that Eagles unit because I don't think anybody had Denver playing that well. And to play that well, then have a rookie quarterback too, I think that team is going to be dangerous coming up here. So I think it was not like a, oh my God, you gave it to him kind of award where he like was totally undeserving, because I think there was about 4 or 5 guys who probably really deserved it. So I'm sure it was a close vote. So I'm okay with Surtain. I like it better than the regular MVP award.
For sure. And Shawn, what do you think of Defensive Player of the Year going to Pat Surtain?
I don't have a problem with it. I want my dear Eagle fans to take away my Eagles membership because nothing against Zach. Zach did have a blowout season this year, but I'm biased on this. I played defensive back. So when I see a defensive back, cornerback win Defensive Player of the Year, I'm happy with it. Surtain was instrumental for Denver. To see that was good to me because we don't mainly see that many DBs or cornerbacks win Defensive Player of the Year. So to see them go against the grain, not go with a DN or go with a linebacker, I was okay with it. Surtain, he earned it.
Without a doubt, he earned it. And this stings a little bit for me because a few years ago when Pat Surtain got drafted, he was on the board for Carolina. They went J.C. Horn over him. J.C. Horn's been a good corner to his credit, but he's dealt with injuries for a lot of his career. When he's healthy, he is a very good corner. But the problem is he hasn't been healthy, and even when he is healthy, he hasn't been as good as Surtain. From Argentina, go Chiefs.
Hey, Javi.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
welcome in, Javi. Good luck. We're some Birds fans here, but hey, look, it's gonna be a hell of a game.
It's
Good luck.
Go Birds
Vamos,
for this
FA.
Sunday, and then never again. Rick. 11 simulations on Tecmo. Kansas City won 11, or not 11, won 6 out of 11. Close one there, but moving on. Offensive Rookie of the Year went to Jaden Daniels. This felt like an absolute no-brainer. The least competitive award, he was going to run away with it. Always was. Chris, little shaky there. What do you think of this award going to Jaden Daniels?
100% agree that it should have gone to him. The only reason I was doing that was because I think Brock Bowers kind of had a good candidacy too. He had one of the better tight end seasons that we've seen. I'm 100% a believer that Jaden Daniels deserved this. He had probably the best rookie quarterback season ever. I've mentioned this before on multiple shows, that coolness, that swag, that he was always relaxed, even in the most stressful situations. He held himself so well. And that's why I was so big on him when he went to the NFL, when he was drafted. I said he was the best quarterback out of this past draft class. And I was right for once about something in football, which seems kind of like I've kind of been on a dry spell recently. But with that being said, Jaden Daniels 100% deserving. I just think it was closer than it should. I think it was closer than we may perceive it. That Brock Bowers put up a good fight too.
Brock Bowers, obviously super deserving. He had a phenomenal season. But Chris, you mentioned quarterbacks, and I need to bring up something from a couple years ago. This was the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud class. And me and Chris, we have an Instagram account, Football and More. We did prospect rankings that year. Chris had Bryce Young at his number 1 quarterback, and at number 2 was Will Levis. Chris, I just had to put that out there, and I want you to defend that take. I'm sorry. I needed to throw this out there. I found it going through the old Instagram, so I had to.
Mayo boy, Will Levis, baby.
It was
Mayo.
It was bad. Again, I say that I never say that I'm right all the time. I literally just said that. But if I'm going to look at it in retrospect, it's because he had some experience in college. He's good size, good arm, not so good on decision making. Clearly, as we see with the memes, he has some of the funniest memes. It's like, how are you throwing the ball like Superman? Like you're not Patrick Mahomes. You don't need to be doing that. But I mean, if I'm going to defend in retrospect, I went based on his size, based on his arm, and I was wrong. What are you going to do?
For sure. And we're going to move back to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Mike, you agree with it going to Jaden Daniels, or would you like to see Brock Bowers potentially get a shout for the award?
Absolutely. Jaden Daniels. What an incredible season. I'm never going to root for another NFC East quarterback team ever in my lifetime. But Jaden Daniels, Godspeed, kid, because you are incredible, man. An absolutely incredible arrival into this league. Former Arizona State guy, as you know. I love my ASU boys. So I got nothing but love and respect for Jaden. I thought he was absolutely going to get Rookie of the Year, but shout out Brock Bowers, man. He fought until the very end. He didn't even have a quarterback, and he's still making plays, the guy. So got to give him credit where credit is due, but shout out Jaden. I'm excited to see what year 2. Let's hope he can avoid the dreaded sophomore slump.
And Shawn, you agree with it going to Jaden Daniels, or would you have liked to see a Brock Bowers or potentially even a Brian Thomas Jr., who had a great season in Jacksonville to his own right?
Absolutely, Jaden Daniels. You look at the Commanders back in 2023, they were 4-13. This year they were 12-5. Brought in Dan Quinn as a coach. Jaden Daniels been watching his kids since he started ASU over to Arizona State when Herm Edwards was coaching them. I was a big Herm Edwards supporter, so when Arizona State hired him, I wanted to make sure I stay up every night on Saturday night, watch Arizona State games. Got a chance to see Jaden then and just say, this kid's phenomenal. And just what he's able to do, to get the Commanders a team that nobody expected to be in the NFC Championship this year. Nobody even had a road in. They would have won 4 or 5 games. You would have said they overachieved. To be able to get them from a team that was losing to the NFC Championship and pretty much carry the team on his back, had to give it to him. He deserved it, and he's probably somebody's going to be on the lookout. I hate these in my conference, but somebody we're going to have to worry about every year now going forward.
And moving on to Defensive Rookie of the Year, finalists were Cooper DeJean, Braden Fisk, Quinion Mitchell, Chop Robinson, and Jared Verse, who would take home the award. Mike, what do you think about this? How biased are you going to be? You think it should have gone to DeJean, or are you happy with who it went to?
I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that every single Eagles position player should have won an award this year. They should have. But I'm not going to say that here. I'm not going to be that Eagles fan today, as much as I'd like to be. Maybe later tonight, if you call me up after the game, you know, when we win, I might be a little ignorant. But Jared's he's a great talent. He got a terrible attitude, man. I'm glad that the Eagles ran him and his Rams right out of the city because he wanted to talk all his ish, but he's an incredibly talented person. I've never seen a defensive player that can move like him and the speed that he provides on that side of the football. Like, that's incredible stuff. He's got strength. He's got speed. He's got great awareness on the field. He's, to me, if like I were to compare him to anybody on the Eagles, you know, he's like a little bit skinnier, faster Jalen Carter, right, Shawn? Like, that's the best comp I could give if we're going to compare apples to apples here. But no, Jared Verse, very deserving of the award. I'm excited to see what he does next year. And, you know, I feel like that's a guy that you could say, like, maybe in a couple of years, he might be a top defensive player in the league.
Chris, do you agree with Defensive Rookie of the Year going to Verse, or would you have like to see it go to somebody else?
I think Verse deserved it, and he really flew under the radar this year. Like, I actually didn't even really think about him toward the end of the year. That wasn't really an award that I even thought about necessarily, but I think he did a lot for the Rams, helping them get to the playoffs this year. When they got healthy, man, they got good. I mean, I kind of had them as a sleeper to potentially make a run to the NFC Championship, and I think Verse was a big part of that. I agree with it. Yeah, I didn't even realize he was a rookie, by the way. He's one of those people where you're like, he's a rookie? Like, yeah, geez, you know.
And Jason, you agree with who it went to, or would you like to see it go to someone else?
Yeah, and you know, you talk about big shoes to fill there on the Rams with Aaron Donald. You know, you would think it would be tough to replace somebody like that, and then all of a sudden, this kid steps in and just kind of runs with it. Imagine if Aaron Donald wouldn't have retired, and you play him with Donald. Woof. So yeah, deserving. It wasn't as deep as the Offensive Rookie of the Year. So definitely he's the one that shined the biggest this year.
And Shawn, do you agree with it, or do you think it should have gone to Mitchell or DeJean, maybe even Braden Fisk, who, again, also on the Rams, had a phenomenal rookie season?
They got it right on this one right here. I like Verse, and I hate that he plays for the Rams. He is a Philadelphia-style player. Big, can run, can get in the backfield, disrupt the running back, quarterback, talks trash, everything that we like in Philadelphia players style of defense. They got it right with this guy. I really like him. He's another one that we're going to have to watch a couple more seasons that really could do something. But he deserved this year right here, and he's going to be a force to reckon with on that defense for the Rams coming up.
Without a doubt, Rams defense, two great rookies, going to be a problem for years to come. Now, comeback player of the year. We were talking about this a little bit before we went live. It went to Joe Burrow. Seems a little weird. I mean, if you want to talk about a player who didn't necessarily come back from like a massive injury and just like stepped up their play, I think you got to give it to Sam Darnold. The guy looked his best that he has in his entire career. Best season of his by a mile. But Mike, who do you think should have won comeback player of the year?
I would agree with you, Aaron. I think Sam Darnold is a great name throwing the hat, man. I mean, look, the guy was coming from a backup position in San Francisco. He was ran out of New York. He saw ghosts. He came to Minnesota, and all he saw was Jay's Jets open down the field, and he was yeeting the ball all year to him and Jordan Addison, touchdowns on touchdowns. I really thought, like, when we hit week 8, 9, I was like, damn, this Vikings team, they got a shot here, man. Obviously, Sam Darnold, classic Sam Darnold fashion, choked, but
started seeing ghosts again. Nevertheless, I think Sam would have been a great name to throw in the hat. Who else would I throw in that hat? I can't think of anybody that really like stuck out to me that I'd be like, oh yeah, comeback player of the year. I mean, anybody come back from a nasty injury last year?
Chubb, but he didn't play.
But he got hurt again. Yeah. I'd say Sam. Sam would be the best. What did Joe Burrow come back from? Fucking Gotham City? You know, like what are we talking about here? You know, Batmobile. He drove the Batmobile. He got out of Gotham. The Joker was robbed the wheel from the Batmobile or something. Like, what are we talking here? But I guess, yeah, let's go Joey B. Yeah, I guess.
But Chris, who do you think should have won comeback player of the year? Finalists for it were Burrow, Darnold, J.K. Dobbins, Christian Gonzalez, and DeMar Hamlin. Out of those guys, who do you think should have won?
Give me Sam Darnold. And I know that he finished rough. I know that Detroit game was really rough. The playoff game was really rough as well. But, I mean, look at this, man. I mean, he was a total draft bust. He was a backup in San Francisco. It did not work out with him him on the Jets. And he really turned it around. I mean, 35 passing touchdowns to 12 interceptions. That's his career high. His career high previously was 19-13 ratio. So really turned it around. I think even with the bad ending to the season, there's a lot you can talk about that with the Vikings, why they fell off. But I give me Sam Darnold. I think he deserved it a lot more. I'm being honest with you. I have no problem with Joe Burrow personally. I just think that they gave him this award just because he had a really good season and they needed to give him an award because he couldn't get the MVP and he couldn't get Offensive Player of the Year because Lamar, Josh Allen / Barkley were blocking him, and they just gave him an award kind of for the sake of it, to be honest with you.
Derek saying Darnold was in a toxic situation with the Jets. Minnesota gave him a chance, had a good season, without a doubt. Jason, who do you think should have won comeback player of the year?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It would have been Sam Darnold. Yeah, I don't know why they gave it to Joe Burrow. This is the second time he's won that award. It was the participation trophy. Like Chris said, he had a phenomenal season, led the league in passing yards. So this was just kind of award to say, hey, you're not Lamar Jackson and you're not Josh Allen, so we're going to give you something. It definitely should have been Darnold. Look, you talk about a guy that was literally left for dead. He was kicked out of New York, didn't live up to any expectations, toiled through a couple of different teams as a backup, and then came on, and all of a sudden Minnesota came out of nowhere, 14 wins. I'm sorry, I know he didn't have a great playoffs and towards the end of the season, but he's never been there before. It's like he doesn't have the experience of handling playoffs and handling a winning team. Don't know how to win. It's hard to, there's no muscle memory there. So he had a phenomenal season for what he has been through. He was left for dead. So I would have gave it to him. It's a shame that he did not get that because he definitely did deserve it. The Minnesota Vikings were relevant because of him. And that's just mind-blowing to think of because it's Sam Darnold. So, Sam, you should have got it.
Wow. I just saw some crazy news here, not to interrupt here. Kellen Moore expected to become the new Saints head coach.
Yeah.
Dude, this happens every year. This is I'm tired of this argument with the Jalen Hurts haters in the media. Every year the Eagles do good and we make a Super Bowl or we make the playoffs, we have a deep run, we lose our coordinators like this because they're so damn good. And every year Hurts has to learn a new playbook. So it's like, dude, I really wish Moore would stay, man. He better go crazy today. I better see some crazy plays, man.
Hey, at least he didn't go to the Cowboys.
I would have. We would have had pitchforks and catapults at the ready, dude. We would have been ready.
But Shawn, do you agree with the rest of the panel that Sam Darnold should have won Comeback Player of the Year, or do you think Burrow's deserving, or should it have gone to one of the other finalists?
It should have went to Sam Darnold. When you think about Comeback Player of the Year, first guy who always comes to my mind is Chad Pennington, tore his shoulder, came back the next year and lit it up for the Jets. Think about Geno Smith, left for dead by the Jets, goes the backups over there in Seattle, takes over the start job for Russell Wilson, comes back, get them to a playoff. Sam Darnold, this guy, like we said, he was a bust. He was somebody we were saying was a bust. And when he got Minnesota hot and they were winning, my sister, who's an avid Carolina fan, was like, why didn't we get this Darnold back in Carolina? I told her, Darnold was good. Y'all just didn't have what he needed there. But he should have won it. I mean, Joe Burrow, no disrespect. Like we said, they wanted to give him something because he had a good year. But when you got Lamar, Allen, and Barkley up top, it's hard to get that fourth or fifth guy something, so they wanted to give it to him. But Darnold got robbed on this one. This should have been his hand down to go in and take this award to hang up on the fireplace.
Then moving on to Coach of the Year, it was Sam Darnold's head coach, Kevin O'Connell, who won it. I agree with this completely. I think purely based on the performance that Sam Darnold had is the reason why Kevin O'Connell won this award. Like we said earlier, an absolute career resurgence for Darnold. O'Connell, super deserving. Other finalists for the award were Dan Campbell, Sean Payton, Dan Quinn, who was probably my top choice for it after the season that Washington had exceeded everybody's expectations. And then Andy Reid was a finalist for the award as well. But Mike, who do you think should have won Coach of the Year?
Yeah, no, I mean, I really think you got to give it, to him. I think, the Vikings were a team that, a lot of people didn't really consider to be contenders before the season started. So I think that was a good vote. I think that was a good pick. If I were to give you a kind of an honorable mention, I would say Sean Payton. Look what he did with Denver. Denver was right there. Denver beats Buffalo. We're talking way different. We're talking a way different playoffs this year. So I think you got to go with oh my God, what's this? Kevin O'Connell, right? Yeah, there we go. That's the same guy. Just drawing a blank here. I'm all eagled up here. Yeah, I think it was O'Connell, and I think honorable mention. You got to go Payton, man. I mean, look at Denver. They were not another team that was like, they're not doing shit, and they were right there, this close.
Chris, do you agree with the award going to Kevin O'Connell, or would you like to see it go to somebody else like a Sean Payton or a Dan Quinn?
I think Kevin O'Connell did definitely deserve to be in the contention for it with the season Minnesota had that exceeded everybody's expectations. I think Harbaugh with the Chargers, they really exceeded expectations too, even though they fizzled out really quickly. A lot of people didn't really talk about him. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I had the Chargers close to Raiders for last place in the West. Like, that was one thing. I did not see the Chargers having a good season at all. But if I'm going to pick one, I got to go with Dan Quinn. Those Commanders had a fantastic season this year, and they exceeded expectations, especially with a really shaky defense. And, hey, man, Dan Quinn just needed an environment where he needed good ownership and a good quarterback, and look what happened. So give me Dan Quinn. I think he deserved it more than O'Connell. And this isn't me taking a shot at O'Connell, but
Shawn, a lot of deserving finalists for this award. Who do you think it should have gone to?
O'Connell, nothing against him. To get his guys to the playoffs with Sam Darnold. When my guy got hurt and Darnold took over, you pretty much left the Vikings dead to rights. But I'm gonna go with a different person. I'm gonna go with Dan Quinn or Harbaugh. I'm gonna go with our guy. I'm gonna be a homer on this one right here. Nick Sirianni, guy who came in this season that was on the hot seat of being fired. Even though we had got in Saquon Barkley, he was on the hot seat of being fired. And even conversation was still flaring up when we kind of dropped a few games and got back going. I think Nick Sirianni should have been someone you can look at to say, hey, got to go from probably looking at a job if we didn't get to the Super Bowl to getting this team to the Super Bowl to play today.
And Jason, who should have won Coach of the Year? Should have been a coach that we didn't even see make the final list, like a Harbaugh or a Sirianni? Or do you agree that O'Connell was deserving of this award?
I mean, O'Connell did great, but I got to echo Chris. Dan Quinn, you talk about a franchise that was labeled extremely toxic. I live here in Northern Virginia, and they were a laughingstock. People were hiding their Washington clothes. Dan Quinn and that management took essentially a dead team and a rookie quarterback and made the noise that they made, changing a culture throughout the organization. That's almost impossible in today's NFL. I got to give it to him. I mean, it's tough as a Giants fan. We got to see him in an NFC East, and I got to see Daniels in the NFC East twice a year now. He's going to be a stud for the next 8 to 10 years. But, yeah, I got to give it to Quinn. I mean, Peyton taking that rookie quarterback Knicks, but he had a great defense. He's been there before. But Dan Quinn has not had success like this as a head coach. And for him, first year with this toxic organization that nobody wanted to go to or nobody wanted to touch, all of a sudden now you're a free agent destination. You made it to the playoffs. You exceeded expectations. You're 2-3 years ahead of schedule. And I think he has a lot to do with that. You got to give him some credit, man. That was an unbelievable job to do what he did. And Daniels, I don't think would have thrived underneath any other coach. So I got to give it to him. 14 wins for the Vikings. That's a great job. But that NFC North was a interesting division because Dan Campbell, which one was better? Dan Campbell had the better year. He had the most injuries on his defense. He had 20 injuries or something like that on his defense. So look what he did with a team that literally was falling apart around him. So I would have put him before O'Connell, but Dan Quinn, man, I got to give it to him. That was a phenomenal season for the Commanders.
And we got some pretty big news that's come out this morning. Starting off, Deebo Samuel, he has requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers Super Bowl window feels like it has slammed shut on them rapidly. But Jason, we were talking about this backstage before we went live. You were saying you wouldn't mind seeing Deebo with your New York Giants. Where would you like to see Samuel end up?
I wouldn't mind having with the Giants. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. I think we can use. It's tough. Deebo Samuel's 29 years old, so he's not totally young anymore. He's only had 1,000-yard wide receiver receiving season. He had 1,400 yards in 2021. So he's not a huge threat, but he's one of those guys where you can take him out of the backfield. You can do some of those jet sweep stuff. I think if you put him with the Giants, you got Neighbors on one side, Deebo on the other side. I think we can cause some havoc, especially if we can draft a quarterback this year, Sanders. But we'll see what happens there. But I would like to see him in New York. I think Deebo would also fit pretty well in Buffalo because Josh Allen needs someone to throw to. And that's why Josh Allen won the MVP, because he throws the ball to Josh Allen. Josh Allen runs the football. Josh Allen's making blocks downfield. So you got to give him some help. So I think Buffalo would be kind of my second choice for Deebo to go. I think he could thrive there in upstate New York.
Shawn, where do you think Deebo's going to end up? Teams like the Packers, Cowboys, Giants and Bills, like Jason said, they're all in need of a wide receiver one. Packers were their whole receiving core was banged up all year, and none of the guys really separated themselves as a true wide receiver one. Where would you like to see Debo get traded to?
Definitely wouldn't want to see him go to the Packers because my best bud is a Packers fan. So I would have to hear that all season from him if they got him. But my 3 places I think Debo would flourish at would be number 1, the Chargers under Harbaugh. Under Harbaugh, under with Justin Herbert throwing the ball. I think that could be a reinvention over there getting the Chargers going. Harbaugh knows how to get wide receivers open. He's got good schemes. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback. Putting those two together could be a good 1-2 punch. My second one, I got to go with Jason. Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen needs a wide receiver. I thought when he got Amari Cooper, that would be the guy, but he just got lost out there in Buffalo somewhere. They're still looking for him with a flashlight in the daytime. And then my third team he needs to go to will be the Indianapolis Colts. Andy Richardson, man, the Colts got something up there. Andy Richardson, you put him up there, Andy Richardson, he's got a big target to go throw to right there. So that would be my top 3 I want to see him go at. Wouldn't want to see him go to Pittsburgh, but my buddy texts me right now saying Pittsburgh will be the best spot.
True Crowd saying the Ravens could use a player like Debo. Chris, where do you think Debo's going to end up? What are your top couple landing spots for him?
I got to go with the board and say that Buffalo is a fantastic spot for him. They need a true number 1. Debo's kind of been a little bit inconsistent. He's had some injury issues, so he's kind of a gamble. I'm going to go say a weird one that's not been said, and I'm going to say the Chicago Bears might not be the worst either. That's kind of an interesting one. DJ Moore had a great year. I think it would be good to compliment DJ Moore, especially with the way that Debo plays, the option and all that. I think that would be a fun thing to see with a young quarterback like Caleb Williams. And then last, I'm gonna go with the Chargers too. I mean, they need a true number 1 receiver. I feel like they've kind of been all over the place. And yeah, I mean, as a bonus, maybe I'll say Jacksonville too with Brian Thomas Jr. The more weapons, the better for Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion.
Mike, where do you think Debo's going? Top few landing destinations for him?
I'm going to give you 2 West Coast teams or West Coast adjacent, whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to give you 1 absolutely wild card pick that's going to cause one of our boom boys to have an aneurysm and one of our boom boys to be ecstatic. I'm going to say number 1, the Las Vegas Raiders, with an incoming head coach of Pete Carroll and the potential to draft Shador Sanders or, one of the other many talented rookie quarterbacks in this year's draft class. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you the rich get richer, and I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. I hate to see it happen, but it could happen. I'm going to give you the 3rd wild card team. We've seen a lot of players in this very strange pipeline going from San Francisco to Dallas. I'm going to say the Cowboys. As much as I would absolutely despise that, seeing as we'd have to play Debo, a few times a year. See, Drew, you see the vibes. You know the vibes. Those would be the 3 teams. I think you could see him go to the Raiders. The Chiefs get richer. The rich get richer. And I would not be surprised if Jerry Jones and the Empire, Jerry Palpatine, go after Debo Samuel.
He cost
I don't think it's that out there, honestly. I think that's pretty possible. I had listed out a few teams. I had the Raiders in there as well. Drew Code liking that trade for Vegas, but God, just not Kansas City, please. That's possible too.
No more fights from the press. That's it. It's Shawn, you speaking facts. If the Cowboys got Debo, but then poor Shannon might lock me up. You know what I'm saying? Shannon might throw me in the brig, and I'll never find my way home. So that's it. Poor Shannon would be an absolute Spain, like our boy Montoya. He'd be in absolute Spain, just running down the beach. No.
Look, and not to sound like a homer, but I got to throw out Carolina as well. They're going to be in the market for another weapon for Bryce Young. I think that's a team to look out for, to potentially, get on the phone, maybe try and get Debo. I am personally not the biggest fan of it. It'll obviously depend on what their asking price is But I think Carolina's still a year or two away to try and trade for a superstar. They got to build up that young roster a bit. They're not in a position, too many needs to, spend draft capital on a superstar player. Give it 2 years. I would like to see him get in the market, make some big trades. But in other big NFL news, about half an hour ago, Schefter tweeted out that it's likely that the Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers. They're sitting at 7th in the draft right now, probably going to miss out on those top 2 quarterbacks. Maybe they move up with the Cleveland Browns, or Tennessee could trade back and give Levis another year. But Shawn, what do you think the Jets are going to do at quarterback now that it's seeming increasingly likely that they will be moving on from Aaron Rodgers?
Definitely either look at the draft or go free agency. If I'm the Jets right now, especially with the new coach coming in, my guy from the Lions, DC, I would look in free agency first. I would draft somebody in the first round, but I would look in free agency to find me somebody like a Sam Darnold that could be a bridge year gap for this quarterback I draft, to kind of keep the pavement going, to give him somebody in the locker room to kind of work with him, then turn the rookie loose. But you definitely know they're definitely going to look on the big board to grab somebody in the first round of the draft, and then probably bring in Darnold with a big contract, bring him back, reunite him back with the Jets, make him give that one hoorah, and I hope Darnold does not flop like he did, but I can see that happening.
Jason, what do you think the Jets are going to do? Russell Wilson, another veteran free agent who's going to be on the market. I don't know how well a Darnold reunion with the Jets would go, but what do you think they're going to do at quarterback?
Who knows? The Jets do so many oddball things. I have no idea. There is going to be some good free agents out there. If the Jets were smart, I would draft a top offensive lineman with that first pick, and then go get yourself a good rookie quarterback in that second round, because you're going to have some good rookie quarterbacks in that second round, especially if teams don't kind of get nervous and start, picking tons of quarterbacks in the first round. You got Milroe, you got Dart, you got Ewers. So, you have some good talent there. I don't know if Russell Wilson is a good bridge either. If anything, go up to New England and trade and get Milton from the Patriots, who played very well in the one spot up game he was there. And then the Patriots have their quarterback in Drake May, so they don't need really another rookie quarterback. So, go up there and at least get somebody that can play quarterback, but you need offensive line help right now. You have 2 stud running backs who were absolutely non-existent this year. So you're not going to do anything without an offensive line behind you. So, but what the Jets are going to do, they'll mess it up, because the Jets do Jet things, and who knows? But Sam Darnold, please don't go back to the Jets. You had a good year in Minnesota. I would stay in Minnesota, sign a little contract with them. I don't think JJ is ready yet. I think coming off of that injury, it'd be a mistake for the Vikings to just throw him back in there and try to start him. So I think you get Darnold for another 2 years or so. Give him a little 2-year contract, maybe a player option for a third, or a team option for a third, and then let JJ kind of sit behind him, because you see CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels. You got one-hit wonder guys. We had Bo Nix last year, awesome season. But that's few and far between. They got to start developing these young quarterbacks, man. Do what they did with Jordan Love. Do what you did with Aaron Rodgers. You sat behind Brett Favre. Do what you did with Jordan Love. You sat behind Aaron Rodgers. Jets, do something smart, please. I'm not a big Jets fan, even though I'm from New York. But they're the laughing stock of the league right now, especially with some of the moves they make. So, I don't know. We'll see what they do. I'm sure they'll surprise us and do something insane.
Chris, what do you see the Jets doing at quarterback? Do they trade up with the Browns or the Titans, or do they try and, get a bridge quarterback, a Russell Wilson, potentially reunion with Darnold?
I got to agree with Jason in the sense that the Jets and also more teams need to spend more time developing quarterbacks. You can't just throw these guys out as rookies, especially if they're not elite talent, and expect them to be good. Like, for example, I think JJ McCarthy going out on week 1, if he wouldn't have got injured, that would have been a disaster just for him. But It's hard to tell. I think that they objectively should go free agency. They do have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever and try and trade for Kirk Cousins' $180 million contract. That would be a very Jets thing to do. And I'm not saying that they're going to. I'm just saying that'd be a very Jets thing to do. But overall, I say wait to the second round, draft you a quarterback, see if you can develop him, maybe sign a veteran like Russell Wilson. I don't think the Steelers are going to be going back for him. In my opinion, I think Justin Fields should be the guy going forward. And go for a veteran for the 1 year, draft a guy in the second round, see what you can do. Maybe a Quinn Ewers or someone like that, and then just develop them.
Mike, what do you think's going to happen? Do they get that reunion with Darnold? Do they trade up, or do they bank on a quarterback falling to 7?
Listen, big shout out to my pops, man. Big Jets fan, biggest Jets fan I know. I feel bad for him. He didn't want Aaron Rodgers to begin with. Obviously, as you know, I'm the Italian representation here. I think Jason, you're Italian too. Yeah.
Blooded, baby.
DeLuca. Yeah. We got some Italians in the bunch. You know who my pops wanted when they signed Rodgers? He was touting it out. He wanted Jimmy G because of his Italian. He's a handsome Italian man, He's like, bring Jimmy G to the Jets. He'll fit right in. I bet you the Jets wish they would have brought Jimmy G in after the way Aaron Rodgers last couple of years have went. I was just thinking about the same thing. I said Russell Wilson in my head. I was like, Russell Wilson's a great name. Justin Fields would be a great change up there. I listen, I mean, the last time, it's been a while, but I think Justin Fields would be a great name to get in the mix there in the Jets for a year, draft a quarterback in this year's draft, like everyone else said. I think if Sam goes back to the Jets, that's moving backwards. Absolutely not. I think Kirk Cousins is basically Aaron Rodgers part 2 for them if they decide to go that direction, especially on that MetLife turf. Not a good decision there. I would say if you're gonna really try to make some moves, and if you're gonna rebuild the Jets, I agree with Jason, man. Get an O-line, get yourself a as they say in baseball, a stopgap guy, and just throw a guy out there for a year and give yourself a chance. And I think Justin Fields might be the guy. I think Justin Fields is the best option out there right now. And I think he could be a guy that maybe next year gets them to a 500 record, and you get that rookie in there the following year after he's had some tutelage there from the veteran, quote unquote. But yeah, the Jets need some help, man. It's tough scene down there in New York.
And we're going to move on to some head coaching grades. Like Mike said earlier, the last vacancy is presumably going to be filled by Kellen Moore and the Saints, but we're going to kick it off with the Dallas Cowboys. They promoted their offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, after waiting what felt like forever to fire Mike McCarthy. I personally think they would have been better off re-signing McCarthy and sticking with him, but they waited too long. They missed out on all the best available guys, and so they had to settle for their own offensive coordinator. How they handled this, it was just bad. I got to give this hire a D minus. But Jason, Cowboys obviously a division rival of your New York Giants. What's your grade for the Brian Schottenheimer hire?
Yeah, you got Ren and Stimpy down there in Dallas. It's going to be terrible. I give him a D minus also, and the only reason I didn't give him an F is because as a Giants fan, I appreciate when you Cowboys do Cowboys things like that. It just makes my organization look and feel a heck of a lot better because we make some suspect choices, but you guys take the cake. 7-10 last year, tons of different injuries, Dak being out. Look, I know it was a tough go round, but Mike McCarthy gave you some stability, and then you literally just hang him on a line. You prevent him from interviewing with people, and just the game that the Cowboys played, they shot themselves in the foot. All the top tier coaches passed you by because nobody wants to play second fiddle to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the brightest star. He will always be the brightest star. I think 8 years after he's dead, he'll still be the brightest star in Dallas. It'll be somewhere in his will that, you got to pass it through him. They got to do a seance or something to make sure Jerry approves the move. Man, you talk about just a bad move. I don't know what the team is doing. You know, your players are looking at you man, you guys are making some of the stupidest moves. So yeah, I give it a D minus. Again, I didn't give it an F because thank you, Dallas Cowboys. My Giants still look pretty good compared to you.
Shawn, what are your thoughts on this hire for Dallas? You think they should have ran it back with McCarthy or just fired him sooner and gotten some interviews with some of the more premier candidates in this cycle?
D minus all the way for Brian. I hate to say that because he's Marty's boy. Not like Marty Schottenheimer's offense back when he was coaching, but it's Dallas. A plus for the Eagles because we don't have to worry about it. But it's Dallas, and I mean Dallas does this all the time. Mike McCarthy could have got them through another 2 years, either as a 500 team, a playoff first round appearance, second round appearance team with all of that. And I think just hiring Brian, you just gave somebody a job. He screwed Mike over. Mike could have been a head coach of any one of these teams we're going to talk about next. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning champ with the Green Bay Packers. I don't like Mike that much, but he's a decent coach. I mean, to me, better than Brian. And if you're Dallas, you just went down the tree for his coaches because you waited so long. I mean, it goes back to what Jay just said. As long as Jerry is running this operation, Dallas Cowboy fans, hear me loud and clear, you will continue to go through this pain and suffering until he finally gives up the reins and say, I have outgrown football and I'm not in the know of what's going on in today's modern football. I need to hire somebody to make these decisions. And that's not going to happen, like I said, that he's 6 feet deep, laying in the casket, staring at the ceiling. And I think Jason just said it best. I'm going to do a seance to get approval before they can do it.
There's that devil magic, baby, that comes into play in the NFL these days. They're going to have to go down to a voodoo priestess down there in New Orleans. They're going to have Jerry, do you approve of the trade on the Ouija board? And it's going to just be no. Get a 33-year-old running back instead. Take the 33-year-old running back.
Chris, what are your thoughts on this hire for Dallas? Feels to me like Jerry's just trying to get a yes man in there, someone that's not really going to push him too much on decisions that he wants to make. What's
got to give it a D as well. I got to give it a D as well. And it's not necessarily that that's the worst possible hire. It's just an uninspiring hire. Like I said before, rushing offense was bottom there in the league, at least bottom 3. Offense did not look good, even with CeeDee Lamb still having a good year. I gotta give it a D. But there's a reason. There's a reason why nobody wants to sign with the Dallas Cowboys. And we've already been talking about this. It's because after every win, after every loss, it's not the head coach they're talking to. It's not Dak Prescott they're talking to. It's not CeeDee Lamb that they're talking to or Micah Parsons they're talking to. They're surrounded around Jerry Jones. The guy's an owner. He should not be in that situation. And if I was a premier hire like Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, I would absolutely not want to go with the Cowboys, even if they objectively have one of the better rosters for the coaching vacancies.
Jerry, obviously, he's going to be screwing over the Cowboys for the rest of his life. But, Mike, what's your grade for this hire?
As an Eagles fan, A+. Great job, guys. As an quote-unquote NFL analyst here on the Gridiron Address with you, Aaron, I will give it a D-.
D was the best grade we gave this, but let's move on to a hire that I really like. New England Patriots bring in their former linebacker and Mike Vrabel. Tennessee never should have fired him. I think this is phenomenal for New England. He's going to get their defense playing right. And the guy had coordinators in Tennessee that would go on to get head coaches. So I think he's really good at getting coordinators in there to support him on the offensive side of the ball. I give this grade a A-. Really big fan of it. But Mike, what are your thoughts on this hire for the New England Patriots?
Oh man, when we were looking at guys to bring over to the Eagles to fill coordinator positions, and the conversation was, who are we going to take on the defensive side, and a couple names were out there. My guy was Vrabel. If we couldn't get Fangio, my guy was Mike Vrabel. I want to bring Vrabel back to Philadelphia. He's got history there. But man, having Vrabel go to New England was fantastic. I believe, if I'm correctly, was it Will Compton who had said on his podcast, like, he was texting some of the guys were texting him, and they're like, what do we do about, Mike? What are your thoughts on Mike? And he's like, he's going to make you work. He's going to put you through the ringer. You better be ready to come in there. You better be ready to do business, because I think Vrabel could really turn New England around, and they have the pieces in place already. They just need a clear-cut wide receiver one for Drake May. And there's a name, we talked about earlier, Deebo Samuel. Maybe they send him to New England with Drake May. Nevertheless, Vrabel, I think you got to give that a big A overall.
Chris, what are your thoughts on this hire for the Patriots? Obviously, phenomenal coach, solid record with Tennessee.
A+. Tennessee should never let him go. The man archetype, probably the best conference championship run that we've seen, outside of Washington this past year. Bad decision by the Titans, and you see where it landed them now. He played there. Every single reception that he ever had was a touchdown, which I still think that random tidbit of statistic is really funny. Defensive-minded guy, guys like Christian Gonzalez, who's an elite defensive player there in New England. I think he can turn that around. Perfect hire. I'm going to give it an A+, actually. I'm going to say A+ is probably the best hire.
Shawn, what's your grade for this hire?
It's an A+. And Dallas fans, this is where you need to listen up. It's the reason why New England is a 6-time world championship franchise. They know how to do the right things. Mr. Kraft knows how to step out of the way and bring in the right people. Vrabel's going to be good up there. Good homecoming for him. That's going to be good up there. And for my buddy that's a New England fan, he's jumping up and down because he's used to the Patriots always winning. So now the Patriots are back.
Jason,
where the hell's the Super Bowl? Where can you even watch the Super Bowl? Is it on Fox?
It's on Fox this year.
Yeah.
Fox, Tubi, YouTube, everywhere.
But Jason, what's your grade for the Mike Vrabel hire for the New England Patriots?
I'm going to downgrade it just a little bit. I'm going to give it a B+. Look, it's a no-brainer for Vrabel. He's going back to the Patriots. He has history. He's a very good coach. He's really great on the defensive side of the ball. He gets himself a good offensive coordinator. I think he'll be great. I'm just disappointed in the Patriots and the way they did Gerard Mayo. They did him dirty. And that's why I'm downgrading this, because he was a one-year lame duck. I mean, that was what was disappointing about this, is you built this guy up last year. Oh, he's in the organization, coming off of Bill Belichick. Look, I know it's hard to follow the GOAT. I get it. But the way they did him, to fire him because they know they wanted Vrabel, that's why I'm downgrading this a little bit, because that was a little shady. I mean, I understand that football is a business, and these owners are going to do what they want. They do the same thing with the players. They're going to do what they want. They don't want no one to tell them what to do or where to do it. This is my team. I'm going to do it. So, but I think they did Mayo dirty. So that's why I'm giving it a B.
Without a doubt, they screwed him over. You got to feel bad for him. But moving on, Las Vegas Raiders, they brought Pete Carroll out of retirement. I'm going to give this a B+. He is super energetic. I think this is a really good hire to bring some energy to the Raiders team that's just been lacking it. I also feel like they kind of screwed over Antonio Pierce, another team that just did not do right by their head coach. I love the Pierce hire when they brought him in as head coach after he was interim head coach the year prior. But Pete Carroll's obviously up there in age. I think he's only going to be around for a few years, but hopefully he'll have a assistant coach in the wings that he'll be able to prep up and get ready to fill in his shoes for the Raiders. B+ for me. It would be higher if he was not as old as he is. But Jason, what's your grade for the Pete Carroll hire?
Yeah, I'm giving it a C+. Look, he's a really good coach, but he is in the twilight. He's only probably got a 3 more years in it. He came for the buffets. He left with a coaching job. It's like, all the old jokes are going to come out. I think, now the NFL has to schedule the Raiders games before 3:00 because anything after that, he's going to be tired. He's got to eat dinner by 5. Look, I think Pete Carroll is a really, really good coach. And you hope that the organization is putting pieces underneath of him, so when he does step away, they have that successor that's going to be right there. And hopefully they can get him some offensive and some defensive weapons. I mean, offensively, not having a quarterback. Look, Brock Bowers is all world. What an unbelievable talent. But you better get a running back there, or at least a couple of running backs, and you better get a couple of more wide receivers, because you can't be a one-trick pony. So I give it a C+, just because, again, Carroll's does it. This is not a long-term hire. This is a short-term hire.
Without a doubt, only going to have a few years left. But Shawn, what's your grade on this hire for the Raiders?
I gave Vrabel an A, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat on this. I give it an A. I'm a Carroll guy. I like Carroll. I like his coaching style. No work Mondays. Take it easy Tuesdays. Let's get an hour break on Wednesdays. I think that's what Las Vegas need. But the reason why I would give it a, Jason and Aaron, both of y'all just said it. If they can bring in good coordinators to be the next guy. If you can't bring nobody young in that Pete can turn this over to in 2 to 3 years, you pretty much have failed for doing the hire. But we're seeing this up here, and I hate to talk about Steve UNC, but you're seeing this with Bill Belichick. They're bringing in young coordinators up there in Chapel Hill so the next guy can be successful, which will be his son, to be successful for Chapel Hill. So if they can do that for Pete, this is an A hiring for them. If they don't, it's going to fall flat on his face.
Chris, what are your thoughts on the Raiders bringing Pete Carroll out of retirement?
I'm going to say somewhere between a C+ and a B-. I think that he's a great coach. I love, again, going off of Shawn. I think that his coaching style is really, really good, and that's why he won that championship in Seattle. That's why he was such a great college coach as well. He's one of the few people that translated in college and the NFL. You don't really see that often. With that being said, I think with his age, it could, I'm not saying it's going to, for the baseball people or watching the baseball people here, I fear it could turn into a Tony La Russa situation where he might have one mentality and the team might have another, even though he's a very progressive thinking football mind guy. It might be different. And the Raiders are not a stable organization. They have never been a stable organization, even when they were good back in the day. And still, I do worry about it. And when I say Tony La Russa situation, I more so mean you are a legendary coach with a championship ring going to a team that is known for dysfunction. Tony La Russa went to the White Sox. Look where they are now. They broke the loss record. The Raiders don't have a lot outside of Brock Bowers. They kind of need everything right now. And again, Mark Davis is not known for his stability as an owner. So I'm a little bit worried for good old Pete Carroll, because I do love him a lot.
Mike, what do you think of this hire for the Raiders? Are you a little concerned about Carroll's age, or are you a fan of the hire because he is a good NFL head coach?
I mean, you should have prepped me a little bit with this conversation. I would have got ahead and got like 3 or 4 pieces of bubble gum and just sat here and just started chewing on it. I mean, he's a great guy. I mean, he should shift the culture of the Raiders. I would really hope so. I mean, he's a great football guy. He's years of talent, decades of talent, knowledge there. So I mean, I'd give it a B. Let's see what happens. Like, I'd hate to see it become a Tony La Russa situation, Chris. My goodness, that was some dark times. I don't know, man. That's a very interesting. How old is he? Like 70, 100,
73,
70 or something? 73.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Belichick's almost in his 70s too, and he's coaching UNC. So I mean, I guess let's see what happens. I mean, I think Carroll could help the Raiders maybe have a 500 record this year, maybe? Question marks? I don't know. I'm tough on that one.
And moving on. Now, the Bears brought in Ben Johnson. This is my favorite hire of this cycle. I think he is the right guy to get Caleb Williams right. Had a solid rookie season. They're obviously going to need to fix that offensive line. I think coming from Detroit, that is going to be a top priority for Ben Johnson. We saw Detroit's thing was just get some dogs on offensive line. Penei Sewell was a key part of their rebuild process. I'd like to see him go offensive lineman. Maybe Will Campbell falls to him, or maybe they trade up for him. You got to get some protection for Caleb Williams. Ben Johnson, phenomenal offensive mind. You saw what he was able to do with Jared Goff. We thought Goff was going to Detroit just to play for a few years and retire, because it felt like he was at the end of his career. He's had a resurgence in Detroit. But Mike, what are your thoughts on the Ben Johnson hire for Chicago?
I think that's a great hire for Chicago. I mean, they need something over there, man. But I mean, like, this is the same cycle. I feel like for the Bears, it's the same cycle. The cycle continues. We draft a rookie quarterback, we get a new coach. The playbook's not the player can't learn the playbook, yada yada yada. We fire this guy, we get rid of this quarterback, we draft a new quarterback, we bring a new coach in. The cycle continues. If Ben Johnson can break that cycle, then you've got a shot. I mean, he's got the talent, all the talent in the world with Caleb. It's like, like an uncut gem. And I think Caleb has barely even scratched the surface of his potential in Chicago. So maybe Ben can bring it out of him, and maybe they can turn that organization around. There's a lot of organizations that need turning around that we're talking about here.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Ben Johnson going to Detroit's divisional rival in the Chicago Bears?
I think it was a pretty good pick. I mean, I gotta go say a B plus or around a B somewhere. I mean, I'll just ballpark it around there. I mean, defensive minded guy, obviously going to a team that the defense is not necessarily their strong point compared to the offense. I mean, they do have some guys despite what he is now famous for, Tyreek Stevenson and Kyle Gordon and Montez Sweat, obviously, but they're going to need to draft some offensive linemen to protect Caleb Williams. They have some good pieces there. I mean, Swift had an underrated year. DJ Moore, I mentioned him earlier in the program. He had a really, really underrated year as wide receiver one there. And Roma Dunze as well, even though they're not necessarily utilizing him properly. So as long as Ben Johnson can learn the offense well and do well coaching that offense, I think it could be a good pick. But yeah, I'll just say B plus.
Shawn, what are your thoughts on Ben Johnson going to Chicago?
I give it a B plus. Like Mike said, if we can break the cycle quarterback coach in Chicago, he's already won in that books. They got a good quarterback up there. Chicago's a good franchise. Ben comes from that AC Reynolds Asheville High School up here in the Carolinas. So I think this guy can do something with them. I mean, like we said earlier, what you said, Aaron, he took Jared Goff. And I mean, when Jared Goff went to Detroit, I said, here's a guy right here we won't never hear nothing about. Then turn around. Now Detroit's one of the hottest teams still in the NFL of the MCDC. So I think, I'll start with Ben Johnson as the OC for him. So I think this is a good hire for them, but Chicago's just going to have to give them time. I think that's the biggest problem with Chicago Bears fans is we want to win now. Well, not we, because I'm not one of their fans. But they want to win now. And I just think if you give it time, let things build, let them bring in players throughout the draft, work 4 to 5 years to work the draft, work some free agency, Chicago can get in a good predicament up there in the NFC North.
And Jason, what do you think of Ben Johnson going to the Bears?
I'm giving it an A plus. Look, Ben Johnson was number one on everybody's coaching list, and the Chicago Bears got him. To me, that says something about what pieces the Bears have. The Bears have some right pieces. They need an offensive line, and they need a little bit of a culture change. So you're talking about a guy that just was a coordinator with probably one of the biggest personalities as far as coaching in Dan Campbell and changing a franchise's culture. For years, the Detroit Lions were sad, pathetic, even forgotten about franchise. Just, the woe is me Lions. Look what they have become now. If he brings a fraction of that energy and that accountability to the Chicago Bears, they're going to change that team around. So I like the hire in the short term. We'll see what happens because, of course, the Bears do Bears things. But you got the number one guy. This guy was number one on everybody's list. So you were able to steal him away and keep him from somebody else. I like the hire. The Bears have some good pieces. The baby bear, Caleb Williams, I think he's going to thrive underneath that offense. They do have some offensive weapons. But, yeah, get him an O-line and get them some accountability. That Commanders game where they were dancing around in the end zone and then ended up getting beat. That's just a team, playing for themselves, not as a team. So I think he's going to change a lot of that. So he's going to bring some of that Bears mentality. And man, that's going to be exciting to see him go playing against the Detroit Lions and that NFC North. So you talk about some exciting games coming forward. Dan Campbell's going to want to bite his kneecaps off. I love it. Let's go.
And we're going to move on. The other Lions coordinator, Aaron Glenn, is now the head coach with the New York Jets. Obviously, Robert Saleh didn't work out there. A few years of just kind of mediocre football. It feels weird going from one defensive head coach to another. Hopefully Aaron Glenn will work out, bring some of that Detroit energy to the Jets. I'm going to give this a B grade. It's just my gut feeling. I don't have much behind it. Just the quarterback situation's too up in the air. Offense is weird. Who knows how long Devonta Adams is going to stick around now that Aaron Rodgers is more than likely out. But Jason, what are your thoughts on Aaron Glenn going to the Jets?
I'm giving it a B minus. It was a good hire. The only reason I don't like it is because they picked the coach first and didn't have the GM in place. I really hate that because a lot of times these teams that you bring in the wrong GM and the coach and the GM don't get along, you got a lot of drama. But he was again one of those guys top on everybody's board that the Jets ended up giving. So I'll give him that B plus. Look, the Jets are known right now for their defense. Sauce Gardner and them boys are going to play defense. If he can get a good offensive-minded coordinator and really get some good offensive line help, and then find yourself either a free agent quarterback or a diamond in the rough quarterback, they have a shot. So I do like the hire. Again, it's the Jets doing Jets things, so you kind of you cringe just a little bit. But B minus. Let's see what the Jets do. Maybe they break. Mike talked about the cycle. Let's see if the Jets break the cycle.
Shawn, what do you think about Aaron Glenn going to the Jets? Obviously, a good hire for him. He was one of the top coaching candidates in the cycle.
B plus for the coach, but I wish he would not took that job. If it was any other one of out here, if he would have took the Raiders job, New England, anywhere else, I would be saying A plus all the way around because I like Aaron Glenn as a coach. But I just feel like with the Jets organization, he's going to get that tank put on after 4 years when they're not going where they need to go. He's going to get fired, and he's going to always have that stain on him that you just can't get off. I really wish he would have went somewhere else, but I understand it. It was a job, good paying job. You're in that New York media, so your name's always going to be out there. But anybody but the Jets. Wish he would not have stood that one.
Chris, what do you think about the Aaron Glenn hire for the New York Jets?
Well, I mean, the Jets' defense is clearly better than the Jets' offense. I mean, Aaron Glenn, not a bad pick at all. I'm going to go probably around the board, say about a B minus roughly. Sauce Gardner there. Jets have a lot to turn around. They obviously quarterback's a question mark. We talked about that earlier in the show. I think it's a good hire. I mean, they have pieces, but I feel like we've been saying that since the Mark Sanchez era. So who knows?
Mike, what are your thoughts on Aaron Glenn going to the New York Jets?
I'll be honest. You guys are going to kill me for this. I don't even know who the hell he was. When they hired it and it was announced, I was like, who?
Mm-hmm.
Who? I mean, from what you guys are saying, it sounds like he should be a good pick. So I'll give it a solid B, from your guys' takes and analysis of it. Fresh face in the head coaching department. Let's see what the Jets can do. I mean, the Jets are gonna jet. Let's be real. So Jets gonna jet. They're booting Aaron Rodgers. They say goodbye, Aaron. See you later. Fresh faces all around in New York could be just what they need right now.
And Aaron Glenn brought another Lions assistant with him, Tanner Engstrand. He was a tight ends coach and passing game coordinator in Detroit. So he's got some continuity there with his staff. He's got experience with them. Maybe he can bring a little bit of that Lions offensive magic to the Jets. They clearly need it. But moving on, the Jaguars, I feel like they mismanaged their coaching search more than the Dallas Cowboys did. They said, hey, we're sticking with Trent Baalke. Then they realized we're not going to get Ben Johnson because Trent Baalke is the problem here. They fire him. They had some interviews with Liam Cohen. Cohen said, hey, I'm going back to the Buccaneers. They're going to make me the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league. Then at the 11th hour, he flip-flops, gets on a plane to Jacksonville. Now he's making Ben Johnson money. He's the head coach in Jacksonville. Now, I like this hire. I have it at a B minus purely because of how Jacksonville mismanage this. I feel like they fire Balky same time they fire Peterson. You got a real chance at landing Ben Johnson, but still got to give it a solid grade because I like Liam Cohen. You saw what he did with Baker Mayfield. Yes, the Jags don't have the same kind of weapons as the Buccaneers do. Brian Thomas Jr., great receiver. You got to get Lawrence more to work with. Maybe he can get some more out of ETN. Tank Bigsby, solid running back too. But Mike, what's your grade on the Liam Cohen hire for the Jags?
I mean, I give his Duval a solid B.
No.
You know, let's you know, I give him a grade. I mean, give him let's just say a C, I guess, for this one. I mean, I don't know. Jacksonville's another team. Tell Tony's father to put some money out there and maybe get some guys, man. You got a couple million you're sitting on. You got that big ass yacht that's parked out there over in New Orleans. Maybe take a little bit of that, sell that bad boy, and get you some players and a coaching staff that can win you some damn games. I love Doug Peterson. That's my guy. Super Bowl 52 head coach, got us a Super Bowl. Shout out to Nick Foles. But man, Jacksonville is. If I'm an NFL player in this draft and I get drafted to Jacksonville, I'm pulling an Eli Manning, baby. I'm not going. You can't make me go to Jacksonville. I'm not going. Forget that place, dog. We'll see what happens, man. That's another team that's kind of like low on the radar of my, at least for me when it comes to NFL teams like Jacksonville. Never a thought about them ever. Sorry, Jacksonville Jaguars fans. No offense.
Chris, what do you think of the Liam Cohen hire for the Jags?
Weird situation overall, just how it all happened. Pretty much as weird as this Duval, but I got to give it a B. I mean, again, I feel like I've been kind of, handing those out like hotcakes today, but great with Tampa. Obviously, like you said, Aaron, way more pieces in Tampa with guys like Godwin, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, Card White. But, there are pieces there in Jacksonville too. Brian Thomas Jr. had a really, really good year. I think they could benefit from drafting a receiver maybe in the second round as well. This is a slightly medium to ish receiving stock this year. Give him something. Maybe go for a T. Higgins as well. I think he's a free agent. That would be a great move. Build around Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is still a fantastic quarterback, and that division is winnable. So they could definitely be one of my picks to turn it from last place to win it if possible.
Shawn, what do you think of Liam Cohen going to the Jags and how they handled their whole coaching search?
They handled it awkward, kind of bad. I mean, I'd give it a C. Cohen, he was a good OC for Tampa Bay down there. Comes from the Todd Bowles tree. I mean, Baker, once again, when those guys are kind of washed out, come behind New England, come behind the GOAT Tom Brady, stepping in to keep Tampa relevant in the playoffs to that past 2 years, all because of OC. So, I mean, he's a C guy. I mean, anything could have been somebody better, yes, but we'll see what happens with this one.
Jason, what's your grade for this hire?
I'm giving it a C+. Jacksonville, another one of those organizations that really doesn't know what they're doing, and it's evidence. You got an ownership group that I don't think they really know football, and this is pretty much a de facto European team. So do not be surprised to see the Jacksonville Jaguars over in Europe as the London Silly Nannies or something like that coming up here pretty soon. So that's why this has been an interesting hire. I know Cohen was one of the top offensive minds out there, and they really wanted to get an offensive mind. Because look, Trevor Lawrence looked absolutely horrendous. They better get him an offensive line and block for him. They better do something with that running back room. I think they need to trade their pieces away and try to get themselves a little better running back, because I don't think ETN or Tank is the answer at all. Trevor regressed tremendously last year. So I think that's why they really wanted Cohen to come in, because they saw what he did with Baker Mayfield. So they're hoping he can do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, I'm giving it a C+ just because, again, now you have an organization that spends more time in Europe and doesn't really make good moves and hasn't made good moves in a long time. And it's evident by the way they showed it this offseason.
And moving on, this is the last head coaching vacancy of the cycle. It's looking like Kellen Moore is going to the New Orleans Saints. Absolutely atrocious cap situation down in New Orleans. I think that's what made this job super unappealing. You got Derek Carr at quarterback. He's not really all that. You got Alvin Kamara. He's still playing good, but he's getting up there in age, and running backs can drop off a cliff once they get north of 30. But, Jason, what are your thoughts on the likely Kellen Moore hire for the Saints?
I'm giving it a C+. Again, good offensive mind. Did really, really well in Dallas with them boys down there. He did really, really well this year. I mean, look what he did with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's gotten that offense to the Super Bowl. So I think this was a good hire for the Saints. Why he wasn't hired in Dallas, I don't know, because he has that connection. But the Saints, another organization that needs some help. They don't know what they're doing on offense. They have some pieces, but a lot of them are broken all the time. They definitely need to do something with Carr. He's not the answer at quarterback. And that's one of those cities where, with Drew Brees, if you win something in Louisiana, you are beloved. I mean, so that is a sports-hungry town. They love the Saints down there. So you would think that this would be a destination for, free agents and coaches to want to go to, because it is such a football town, and they're so excited about their teams, and they really build them up. But it was a good hire. They need some help down there. I think Kellen Moore is going to do something with that offense. It just depends on what pieces they can get him to play with, because he definitely it doesn't have a lot of weapons right now. So we'll see what happens.
Shawn, what are your thoughts on Kellen Moore being the likely next head coach for the Saints?
B+. Hate to see him leave Philly, but B+. If he can get in, like Jay said, if he can get into New Orleans, work those pieces, what he has now. I'm an Alvin Kamara guy, play him every year in fantasy. If he can work those pieces, get something out of Derek Carr, and start working towards building a new team over the next 2-3 years, you got a good hire with this coach right here. I saw what he did with Philly as far as with the offense when we got Saquon, took us from a pass-heavy offense to now more of a heavy run balance offense where we run the ball more and pass when we get you open coverage. So I think he knows the X's and O's. He's a great coach. It's just all what they surround around to work with in New Orleans.
Chris, what are your thoughts on the projected Kellen Moore hire for the Saints? I can only say bad things about the Saints. I'm going to say nothing more than I hope the hire fails miserably for them. But Chris, what are your thoughts on this for the Saints?
I feel like they've been trying to make this guy a head coach since 2019. I feel like it's been 5 years that they've been talking about. He's been like a elite pick, and he's still state coordinator either in Dallas or in Philly. With that being said, they are just not in a good situation with the cap, with the age of Kamara, no guaranteed quarterback, future, like it's ugly there. Michael Thomas, obviously, as our friend Luke likes to call him, slant man, gone. Not much appeal down in the Bayou, but I'm gonna give it a C. I'll break away from my B trend, and I'm gonna give it a C. I think that he can start the process of turning it around, but it's gonna take a lot, and it's going to be a long process, and that really depends how long New Orleans is willing to stick with him.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the Kellen Moore hire for New Orleans? Obviously, bad cap situation, banged up weapons on offense, and a running back who's getting up there in age.
At this point, man, demote the Saints to college and bring up Alabama, bring up Georgia, bring up any other team. I mean, the Saints are I feel bad for the New Orleans Saints fans. I really do, man. You got the Eagles in the Super Bowl, you got the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in your city, in your stadium, man, and your poor team is struggle busting it along here every year. It's the same song and dance for that poor team. I think Kellen Moore's a great pick for them. I hate to see him leave. Really, really don't want to see him leave. I hate that we keep losing our guys, but that's what happens in this NFL, man. The more successful your team is, the greater chance you have to lose your coaching staff. And, I think Kellen Moore, I think if they give him a chance, he could be a changing of the guards for New Orleans. If he ends up being like a guy like Jared Mayo, I really hate to see that happen. But if he does end up getting booted after a year, come on back. Philadelphia will welcome you with wide open arms, brother.
I like this hire. I give it a B-. He could potentially make the most out of Derek Carr. He had a couple years in Dallas. They were the number 1 ranked offense. The one year they weren't, I think they were middle of the pack, around 12th. He's got Philly 8th in total offense this year. Good hire for him. But honestly, you could launch the New Orleans Saints franchise into space, and I would throw a party. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't like them at all. Least favorite sports franchise by a million miles. But moving on, now, before we hit our Super Bowl 59 preview, we're going to look ahead to Super Bowl 60. Way too early prediction. This segment brought to you courtesy of Jason. He pitched it to me. I like the idea. So we're going to kick it off with him. Jason, who do you think we could see appear in Super Bowl 60?
Woo. I'm going to go in my my throwback machine here. I'm going to pick Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl and for the AFC, and then NFC. As much as I want to pick the Lions, right now, NFC is tough because it's a real deep. I'm going to go Bears. Bills, Bears, Super Bowl.
Shawn, Jason going Bills, Bears. Way too early predictions. Who do you see making Super Bowl 60?
AFC, as bad as I want to give it to the Bills, they run against the Mahomes curse in the second round. But this team beats Mahomes in the AFC Championship. The Ravens make it to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson gets the Ravens to the Super Bowl. Well, Baltimore's been dying to get back. And they will play a team not too far from them from the NFC, the Eagles.
Oh.
There it is.
The Birds, baby.
That's it, baby. That's my prediction, too. Shawn, we're in tune today, man. I got that Eagles telepathy. Give me Super Bowl 60, Eagles, Ravens, Battle of the Birds, baby.
Chris, who do you have making Super Bowl 60? I was not expecting that back-to-back Battle of the Birds prediction.
I'm gonna go with the AFC, and you guys are gonna get mad at me. I think Kansas City gets their back. I think that they're pretty much guaranteed. They're like New England at this point. And I just don't see Josh Allen ever being able to get over the hump. I don't see the Ravens being able to put enough pieces around Lamar Jackson to be able to make it past Patrick Mahomes and those Kansas City Chiefs out of the AFC. And then from the NFC, I'm going to go with a little bit of a weird one, and I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams. I think a healthy Rams team at the beginning of the year throughout, with a young defensive player like Jared Verse, they make a couple good draft picks, maybe make a couple signings, even with Cooper Kupp on the way out. That's a really, really good offense. I think Stafford's got one more year in him. Give me Kansas City. Give me Kansas City over the Rams.
And for me, this pick out of the AFC, little weird, but he's got Mahomes' number in the playoffs. I think since he's going to get that defense right, get him some help on offensive line, I'm going Bengals. Joe Burrow seems to be the only quarterback who can beat Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. I'm going Bengals out of the AFC. And for the NFC, I got the Lions. I think Dan Campbell's going to rebuild that coaching staff. They're going to stay healthy, and they're going to make the Super Bowl run that we were expecting them to make this year. As far as a winner goes, I'm going to back the Bengals. I live in Ohio now. Joe Burrow grew up about 10 minutes from where I live. Everybody loves him here. So I'm backing Joe Burrow and the Bengals to win Super Bowl 60. But obviously, super early predictions. The Bears pick from Jason, that's out there. That's out of pocket. This isn't out of pocket, but I gotta say it for.
Hey, we'll see how this age. We'll see how this ages coming into next year. I think Ben Johnson is going to make a difference. Ben Johnson, watch it.
Definitely can make a big difference, but now we got our Super Bowl 59 preview. Chiefs are 1-point favorites. both of these teams super, super well coached. They got players, not necessarily big names. They got guys who will step up to the occasion when called upon. But before we get into our predictions, Mike threw it out there in the comments. Let's talk what's on everybody's Super Bowl menu. Mike, you were saying you're in charge of cooking this year. What you got cooking up for your party?
We got the whole spread here. We're doing a little a little smokies, a little barbecue sauce action. Obviously, Mrs. Mouthing off with Mike has celiac disease. If you're not familiar, it's a gluten intolerance. You can't eat wheat. Tough scene. But we did pick up some gluten-free puff pastry. We're gonna do some gluten-free pigs in a blanket. A little buffalo chicken dip. Got to have a staple. And of course, I'm gonna do a little some sliders, some burger sliders. A couple, the sides and all that fun stuff. Do a little some beans. You know what I'm saying? Some baked beans. Yeah, man, menu's full, man. I gotta get cooking here in a couple, but we gotta talk to Super Bowl, so I'm excited. I want to hear what everyone else is cooking up today too.
Chris, you got any plans? You're gonna make any food, or you going out for the Super Bowl?
I'll probably be staying here. I was kind of on the cusp. I was going to go to my fraternity's watch party. I was going to hang out here. I decided I'm just going to hang out here. One of my roommates and I went to Sam's Club today. We got some stuff for buffalo chicken dip. We got some pigs in a blanket stuff. We got some wings. We're going with a pretty traditional route here. We also got chicken salad, I think, going too right now. That's more of a meal prep thing, but yeah, we're going good old fashioned here. I make my buffalo chicken dip pretty much for everything at this point. And it's actually become pretty popular because the secret is getting the rotisserie chicken instead of canned chicken.
Thank God. Listen,
Absolutely.
the first time I was at a party and somebody
Blue cheese crumbles too. Blue cheese crumbles.
Buffalo chicken dip, and I watched them make it. I saw them bust open that can of chicken. I was like, I'm never eating out of your food again. I'm never eating your kitchen again. Because listen, hear me out. It's got to be ground chicken. It's got to be shredded chicken. It's got to be cubed up chicken. You got to have some real season. You gotta get some chicken, please. God, canned chicken in a buffalo chicken dip. I'm sorry, no offense, but listen, that's a travesty. It's a travesty.
Amen.
Travesty, without a doubt. I'm not having a Super Bowl party. Me and my brother are going to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. Chris, we used to go there a lot and spend
memories from high school.
7 hours at Buffalo Wild Wings watching football up until the primetime game. That was a lot of fun. But Shawn, what you got cooking for your Super Bowl party?
Me and the missus, we working on some stuff right now. She's down in the kitchen. I'm gonna take over once we get done. But she's gonna do her famous turkey roast beef sliders, cheeseburger sliders, like Mike said. We're gonna do some her famous hamburger dip with nacho sauce with it, with a Sotiso chips. We got some macaroni and cheese. We got iced tea. We got Kool-Aid. We got everything you can name. We can fry some chicken nuggets for the kids, popcorn chicken for the kids, some honey barbecue wings. My little one wants some hot dogs, so I'll probably do some baked beans with hot dogs in it. So we're going to have a little variety of everything around here today.
I'm getting on a flight right now.
Gotta have a cold beer.
Think I can make it there before? Think I can make it there before kickoff, boys? I'm on the West Coast. That news sounds absolutely scrum-diddly-umptious.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, what you got going on for your Super Bowl party?
I'm just hanging out here at the house. I make a mean pepperoni roll with my homemade sauce to kind of dunk it in. So I got my pepperoni roll going. And then I do a pulled barbecue pork sandwich, but not in the sliders. I got the long mini buns, like a mini sub roll. And then you kind of toast that with the melted cheese on the top of that. And then I'll probably do like a little nachos or something on the side, just kind of just something to dunk and munch on throughout the game.
Mamma mia. I'm gonna have to get over here to the East Coast real quick.
Come on over, man. Come on over.
Let's go.
But moving on, obviously Super Bowl, big betting occasion as well. A lot of money is going to be riding on this game. I feel like we got to talk about it. Obviously, everybody watching, bet responsibly, set limits for yourself, and be smart with it. Don't spend too much money. Don't be a degenerate. Be smart with your money. It can get out of hand fast. But
call 1-800-GAMBLING if you have a gambling addiction, please.
exactly,
don't bet your mortgage payment this month. Pay your freaking mortgage.
Pay your rent, pay your mortgage. But Mike, since you pitched this segment to me, I'm gonna kick it off with you. You got any bets going for the Super Bowl?
Absolutely. I'm not betting. I haven't bet on the Eagles all season. I am a superstitious man, so I will not be betting on any of these bets. But I'm going to give you an Eagles 4-leg parlay that I'm pretty confident in here. So if you guys want to go ahead and write this down, don't come for me if it doesn't hit, because it's not my problem if you lose your shirt and your hat to the sports books. But I'm going to go ahead and give you 75 plus yards for Saquon Barkley rushing. I'm going to go ahead and give you an anytime touchdown for Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go ahead and give you a anytime touchdown for Jalen Hurts. And I'm going to give you the Eagles money line. There's your 4-leg parlay. Maybe you make some money off of that one. And if you do, you could always pay off my swear jar dues for Boom Broadcasting. Hey, hot stove.
Took them long enough. It took them long enough to get here.
Exactly. Where you been at?
Been here for like an hour and 40 minutes. Come on, man.
But
You're late.
Chris, you got any money riding on tonight's game?
I actually was cooking a little bit when during some of the other segments here. So I did throw a couple down. I'm sorry, Shawn and Mike, I do have Chiefs -1.5 and one of mine, but I do have a Saquon Barkley over 100 rushing yards added on to that parlay, as well as an anytime touchdown for that man. I also have a separate one where I just have a TD prop for A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown. I think he's going to get open. And I might go do some with Devontae Smith too, because I feel like the Chiefs are going to be putting a lot of focus on A.J. Brown, so I might go throw some Devontae Smith as well.
Shawn, you got any money on your birds tonight?
No, I'm like Mike. I haven't bet on them all year, but me and my buddy I went to high school with, he's the Packers fan. If the Packers are playing in the Super Bowl, if the Packers win, I take them out to lunch. Same thing with the Eagles. When we play in the Super Bowl, if the Eagles win, he'll take them out to lunch. We got a little gentleman agreement bet. We've been doing since high school with that. But safe side on money, Saquon for a touchdown. And you will guarantee to see 5 tush push tonight by the Eagles.
At least. I take the over on that.
Gatorade will be orange.
I'll take make that a 5-leg for me. I'll take Eagles over 1.5 sacks too on the defense side. I think the Eagles could sack Mahomes twice today.
Jason, what kind of money you got going on for tonight's game?
I'm not a bettor. I work too hard for my money. I'm a degenerate fantasy football owner. That's about as far as it goes. I see an interesting game tonight. But I got the over under on how many times they show Taylor Swift up front, up top. So I got the over 10. I think Taylor Swift, over 10 times you're going to see the camera pan.
The line's got to be more. 15.
Well, that's why I'm going.
Got to be like 12 and a half.
Over on it.
You got to go.
I got at least put 10. I think that was it.
But I cooked up a 6-leg parlay, only $5, but the odds aren't too bad. I got Eagles money line. I got Kelsey Mahomes anytime score. I think we're going to see Mahomes scramble a lot. Philly's going to get pressure on him, but he's going to be able to roll out of the pocket, get a touchdown, as we've seen him do. I got Barkley Hurts anytime touchdown score as well. I also have under 48.5 points scored in this game.
Wow.
Low scoring game, but keeping it light. Only a $5 bet. About do one of those once a month. Got to keep it light. But moving on to the actual Super Bowl predictions, not just bets. Like I said earlier, Chiefs are only a 1-point favorite. I think the Eagles are going to get it done, though. I think it's going to be on the lower scoring side. Final score, I'm going to go 27-17 Philly. That's not only because I put money on the under for the points. Don't throw out that accusation. I was thinking this before I put any money on it. Going to be a close game, though. I think Philly will probably pull ahead a little later, though, in the fourth quarter. Up until then, I think it's going to be super competitive. Like I said earlier, both of these teams are coached phenomenally. Andy Reid, best coach in the league right now. They got guys who can step up to the occasion. Like we saw Juju have a great AFC championship, couple big plays from him. Xavier Worthy, phenomenal catch that maybe wasn't a catch, but we're past that now. But Mike, how do you have this game going down?
I got this game going down here, man. I'm saying I think realistically I'm gonna say Eagles 31, Chiefs 27. I think we're gonna see a high scoring game. I think my goal for this game, Eagles opening offensive drive, Saquon rips a touchdown run, 75-yard plus run for a touchdown. I think we'll see a turnover. I think we'll see a turnover on both sides here of both teams. Potentially, you know, Mahomes throwing a pick or Hurts throwing a pick. I think each guy's going to throw a pick or have a fumble in this game. I think we'll see some turnovers with both defenses. Yeah, I think 31-27. I think it's gonna be a tight game. It's gonna be a heart attack game for me and the Eagles fans. But I think we're gonna pull it out, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're gonna run ourselves to our second Super Bowl trophy on the back of the birthday boy himself, Saquon Barkley. I'd be remiss. Shout out to Cooper DeJohn. Maybe my man will get his first career interception on his birthday today in the Super Bowl too. Keep an eye on it, folks.
Chris, what do you have going down in this game? You think Chiefs make it 3 in a row, or does Philly pull off the slight upset?
I think you guys know where I'm going to go. I've been picking them, and unfortunately it's been happening, even though I don't want it to happen. I got Kansas City. I got the Chiefs. And I want the Eagles to win. I'd much rather see the Eagles win just because I want to see Philly descend into fun chaos, not angry chaos. I want to see Broad Street go crazy, not in angry sense. I'm going to say 31-21 Kansas City. I mean, look, Philly dropped a 50 burger on the Washington Commanders, but this is not the Washington Commanders defense, especially the Washington Commanders secondary that Philly is going into. This is going to be a relatively high-scoring game. I think it's going to be – it might be lower. I do kind of agree with Aaron's points there. That's why I was pondering on this for quite a while. I almost wished you picked me last just for this. But, yeah, give me 31-21 Kansas City. Kansas City has guys that are going to step up. They have guys like Worthy, guys like Juju who are going to be stepping up. And Patrick Mahomes, I saw this, unfortunately, on Christmas Day. When Patrick Mahomes with his legs needs to get something done, it is going to happen. And just regardless of how good Philly's defense has been, guys like Cooper DeJean, guys like Zach Bond, it's going to be so hard because they plan for everything. Andy Reid is a great coach. Nick Sirianni is a great coach. But give me Andy Reid doing that three-peat for those Kansas City Chiefs, 31-21.
Sean, are you picking your Eagles to win tonight?
I'm picking to win 38-35, Eagles way. If we weren't playing them and it was anybody else in the NFC, I'd be rooting for Andy to get that three-peat. But you know, three-peats, you only see them in basketball with the Lakers. Nobody else. It's hard to do it in football. If New England couldn't do it, as good as that team was, Kansas City is as good as New England. They're not beating my Birds tonight. We got, like I told my uncle the other day, you may got Kansas City, but we got Saquon. That's going to be the difference maker right there.
Tell the people.
Jason, what do you think is going to happen tonight? You think your divisional rival Eagles get the win, or does Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs make it 3 in a row and make history tonight?
You know, I've been picking against the Chiefs all year, and it has bit me in the coolie so many times, I can't even count it. But I'm not doing it again. I have to go Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley, I think, goes for over 130 yards. I think Jalen Hurts is going to get the MVP of this game. You got two really good defenses going against each other, but I've got Eagles 24, Kansas City Chiefs 17. I think they fall a little short. I don't see any weird ref calls in this game. I don't see any kind of drama like that. I think it's going to be an excellent game. But it is hard to three-peat in the NFL. It's hard enough to do what the Chiefs have done already, the 7 years in a row that they've been either in the AFC Championship game or in the Super Bowl. So, phenomenal run. Excuse me. But give me the Philadelphia Eagles. As a Giants fan, I want to go. I'll probably have to go have a little moment in the restroom here because I'm feeling a little nauseous. Because that pains me to say that, but the Kansas City Chiefs are just as obnoxious right now. So I picked them against them all year. I'm going to keep on picking against them. Come on, Philadelphia. Let's go.
Let's go, Birds.
Well, I stand alone, it looks like.
Jason,
hey, listen, remember the last time a team was going for a 3P? Who won that Super Bowl, baby? Just remember, we're the 3P stoppers.
That's it.
We end this 3P. Let's go Birds. No one can say anything. I don't want to hear the Dan Orlovskis opening their freaking mouths on these sports shows, uttering pure and hot garbage when Hurts and the Eagles walk into New Orleans and walk out as your Super Bowl 59 champions.
well, look, Jason, hopefully you didn't jinx the Eagles by picking for them because you've been picking against the Chiefs. Chiefs keep winning, but
Hey, I got to be right at least once. Give me this time right
Look,
now. One
hopefully.
time, I'm right. This game right here, I'm finally going to be right. I know, it's said that in order to be the man, you got to beat the man, but I think the man gets beat today.
Look, hopefully, go Birds. Hope they can pull it out. Love to see Saquon cap out this phenomenal year he's had with a Super Bowl. I think he's got a good chance to win Super Bowl MVP. Honestly, that would be my pick, Saquon MVP. But thanks everybody for watching. That'll do it for our Super Bowl 59 preview. Thanks everybody for sticking around. This is one of the longer shows I've done. Thank you to the panel for sticking around for this whole time, almost 2-hour show. Most live viewers we have had in the history of the show. Yes, it's only been one season, but hey, last 3 weeks have been the best 3 weeks that we have had, and this is to the credit of all these guys that have been coming on. Michael's been on a lot too, Shannon, but Chris, Jason, Mike, and Shawn, y'all been big for me these last few weeks, especially with that long draft show. Chris, Jason, shout out to y'all, and Mike and Shawn, love getting some Philly representation on the show. Would have got a Chiefs fan on if I could. Don't know any, but thank you all for sticking around and watching, and let's have a